Many years ago, my very first job ever in video on my own, I did not have a camera. And I had a client and they asked me how much the job was going to be. And I told them the exact amount was the price of a Canon XH-A1. And I bought that camera, shot the job, and was off to the races. I shot on that camera for years. It was a mini DV camera, HDV tape, and it was awesome until we kind of moved into the T2i, 5D, like that kind of era of filmmaking. But that camera always had a place with me. From that camera, I ended up moving into a PMW 200, which is a Sony product, and then that one's kind of become long in the tooth, and I haven't had a good replacement for it, so I started shopping about a year ago. I looked around, and there's a lot of cameras that are still being made. Sony, Panasonic, uh, even Canon have some great cameras that are all-in-one kind of models, but they're pretty pricey, and I couldn't justify spending that much on that kind of tool when a lot of the work we were doing was more, corporate and commercial cinema style work, where we want to have this beautiful depth of field. Well, that all kind of changed when we started doing more live sports work and event work. And I really needed a camera that I could pull out of the bag quickly, go out into the field and shoot. Well, I stumbled across a JVC camera. It was actually the JVC 500 that's sitting right here. And I started reading reviews online, and they were terrible. They were not good. They talked about a streaking issue, just a mushy picture, not a great image at all. That stuff gets me curious because I really don't believe a camera manufacturer is going to be out there pushing a camera that looks bad. So I knew no one that had this camera. There was no info online about the camera in terms of like YouTube content where I could see the camera in use. Most of the buzz about this camera was about its connectivity, that it had a network jack, it could do SRT, it could encode, but that's all great. But if it looks like deuce, like I don't want to use it. So I ran into the JVC booth while I was at NAB, and they had the 500 set up on a tripod, and I was like, well, let's give it a go. Let's take it through its paces. So I started shooting like attendees that were kind of walking past the booth in the convention hall, and sure enough, people's faces started melting or falling apart. Like, looking at this shot. So this shadow side of my face, it's almost like this was like pixels smearing or detaching in some way. And I couldn't believe it because that was really playing into all the horror stories that I had read online. I called over one of the JVC reps and I was like, hey man, like take a look at this, like what's up? They had no clue. And so I was like, maybe it's the, monitor we're using. Let's get another monitor. We try another monitor. Maybe it's not HDMI, like maybe it's SDI. We try the different ports. It's doing it on everything. I mean, it is coming out of the camera like that. I didn't have any media to record on, so I had no way to check the recording. So my heart was saying maybe it's just an issue on the output. But I was following a guy, and I don't know, something just clicked, and I was like, this looks like when you try to add noise reduction in post. It's like trying to think ahead about where the noise is in these pixels, and it's smearing them. And I was like, can we turn the noise reduction off in this camera? Yes is the answer, but you can only turn the 2D noise reduction off. The 3D noise reduction was what I was really after because that's giving it that weird look. So to do that, we actually had to go into a service menu of the camera to turn off the 3D noise reduction. Go into the service menu right there. The guys at JVC were super helpful. We're all about trying to figure out the issue. We turn it off, instantly clean. All of it went away. Now you're seeing this camera right here is the JVC 500, same one this one is. No streaking, there's no smudging of my face. all of the noise reduction is turned off on that camera. So this camera has the 3D noise reduction turned off. The 2D noise reduction is set to the lowest possible setting. I'm shooting at a -6 gain. I'm in a controlled environment here in the studio, but it looks clean as a whistle. If I go up in gain, do I get a little bit of noise? Sure. You can turn the 2D noise reduction up and that helps, but all the streaking goes away. All that to say, after that, I was like, I have to get one of these cameras. I have to try it. I have to put it through its paces because the image looks clean now. The price point is ridiculous. The feature set that it has is uncomparable in the marketplace. I was like, the only thing it doesn't have going for it is JVC is not a super recognizable brand. And this streaking issue that everyone thinks has just made this a bad release of the camera. So I was able to get a hold of one of the cameras, and over the past year, I have shot a ton of stuff with it. I would say that I don't know if I have the most hours on one of these JVC cameras, but I definitely think I have the largest breadth of content in terms of diversity that anyone has shot with it. Let's start off the bat and say who this camera is not for. This is not a cinema camera. It is not going to give you shallow depth of field, razor thin depth of field. That's not its intention. Most of the shoots that I've done with this camera are around the 5.6 range on the aperture. The lens basically is variable. So at a 5.6, you can even shoot a 4 all the way through the full 20 times zoom. But at a 5.6 is about the sweet spot. This is at a 5, I believe, now, and it looks great. But this is not going to give you the razor thin depth of field that a cinema camera can. You have to go back to your HDV days of where you were using your zoom to get depth of field, right? If you're from that era, you know the struggle was real. But over the past year, I've accumulated quite a good volume of stuff that I want to show today. This isn't really going to be a video about the features and kind of in-depth quirks of the camera. There are some of those more sterile nuts and bolts videos out there. This is more about what does it look like. At the end of the day, that's what I'm after. Like the features on paper all look great, but what does it look like? And there was nothing when I was looking at these cameras that I could find as an example of what the actual camera looks like. So I want to run through those with you today. To start off with, the very first thing I did with this camera was I dialed in a color profile. The standard 709 profile that it comes with is really close. But I wanted a color profile that I knew I could just shoot something. I'm not going to touch this in post. It's literally going to go right out the door. The reason I wanted that was I wanted to be able to record and just get it out the door quickly, but two, if we were doing any sort of event work, that's the color, that's the image that I want this camera to produce. And it's perfectly capable of that. It has so many paint features to go in and dabble through. I did not go that far down the rabbit hole. I messed with the gamma a little bit and the black level, and that was it. And I also picked up a 900 as well, which is the larger brother to this guy here. So this is a one inch sensor, and this is the 2/3 inch like broadcast style. And I actually put them on the bench together and color matched them. So what you're gonna see in these videos are the 709 color profile that I use all the time. These cameras also have a J-log profile, which I think people will probably scoff at or laugh at, but it does give you an extra kind of stop in the highlights. I've used it on a couple projects, and it gives you a little more latitude. The noise is still a little more apparent in it. The times that I've used it are in controlled environments or where I knew that I was going to be intercutting with cine cameras. So I wanted them to match. So I wanted a log profile so that I could grade it to match the cine cameras. So with that being said, we'll take a look at some 709 content and our log content. So first up, the very first thing I did was I went over to a local spot we have here that is underneath a bridge. There was this awesome crabber that was coming in. So I actually went and took some B-roll of him. You can see here, this is all that baked in color profile. And it's not too contrasty. It's not like oversaturated. It has a good look. There's your zoom in depth of field. If you want to fake it, you know, get it a 200 mil or 400 mil, you can get some depth of field. But you can see here, it's holding the shadows underneath as well as the highlights on the side of the boat there where his feet are. Again, same here with the reflections on the underside of the boat. It produces a really good sharp image right out of the camera. And once I had this profile kind of dialed in, that's what we've been running with. You see there on the bird, like his chest isn't like super blown out, but we've got still some detail in the shadow of that pole. So again, it was really good going back to one of these cameras where I can sit in one spot and pick out all these shots. I literally didn't move the tripod. I sat, because I'm lazy, in one area and just panned around and got a bunch of different stuff. So this is the profile we came up with. Again, this is kind of the look of the right out of the box look. Next thing I want to show you is a terrible situation. So here is a college graduation. It's in a unlit auditorium, I guess you want to call it, theater, lecture space. Mixed light, you know, fluorescent lights. The maintenance guy's like, what's color temperature? So it's all over the place. And I think the camera handled it well. Looking at this on this monitor, which again, these files have kind of gone through the ringer in terms of transcoding to get it into the video here, but this is a little soft in comparison to what it looks like on the raw file. It's actually a little sharper, but in terms of color, this is that 709 profile. And it looks great, right? This is something you could see someone shooting with this camera, right? A couple multicam stream of a graduation, right? It holds up very well. Here is an outdoor event. This was a like May Day celebration at a local school. And, you know, she's in full sunlight here. You can look here, the kids are in full sunlight, but the folks nearest to the camera, those guys are in shade, full shade. So you've got some latitude there. Like it doesn't look terrible. Edge to edge sharpness looks good. You've got good color, good contrast, but as well like good highlight recovery. I mean, it's not a cinema image. Again, it doesn't have that depth of field washy look, but it looks great for an event camera. I've been super happy with the results. Again, here is another, just pulling examples of full shade on the near side, full sun on the far side. Couldn't get any worse. And it handles it like a champ, just fine. Let's take a look really quickly at what the log image looks like. So these were all 709, but here is some of the log footage. You see it's a little bit more washy, a little bit less contrast, a little bit less color. Almost has a little bit of a green cast to it. This is on a golf course, so like, of course, we're getting a lot of green reflections, overcast day. Not the best environment to shoot this, but we were able to go in and push and pull this footage. It's all 10-bit, so we shot this at 10-bit 4K 30. And we were able to push and pull this exactly how we needed to fit in with some of the cinema stuff we did. You can kind of see what the J-log looks like, but this is really flat. It's not a great example. Let me show you what a J-log kind of graded shot looks like. So this was J-log footage shot here in the studio. Actually, the same room I'm sitting in right now. And this group of ladies, you know, they were going to have a discussion, roundtable discussion, and I saw a Deadliest Catch interview that was like this, so I had, you know, the wild hair of like, let's copy the Deadliest Catch look where the black just kind of falls off. There's this center kind of high key light in the middle. And the J-log we had to use because of this shot right here, actually. I mean, look at her shirt. It's holding the information in her shirt. It's not clipping her face, right? But we're able to get a contrasty fall off of all the black behind her, which is all kinds of junk. Like all the junk that's behind me is behind all these people right now. But the J-Log allowed us to kind of grade this, so we're able to salvage the skin tones and the highlights, but crush the blacks and get a super clean image, right? This is a great example of a use of the J-Log. This is another shoot in the studio here that's using the Rec 709 profile again. This is a podcast that's done here in the studio space, but you can see it's a broadcast look. It's not a cinematic, you know, black magic, you know, little pocket camera shooting this podcast. It has an edge-to-edge sharpness, a non-shallow depth of field, but again, skin tones look great. It's holding the highlights like in that screen. Again, held up super well. So I was floored by the performance of the camera. To be honest, I did not think it would hold up as well as it did. We've done and used it on a lot more projects, but those are some of the examples just using this camera. But where I think it really shines is when you start getting into sports work. The sports and event side is where these cameras in particular, I mean, I feel like are your only option. That and then the 900. So like the next couple of clips I'm going to show you, we started to introduce the 900s into the workflow. So we were actually shooting these together. And some of these shows that I'm going to show you are all 900s. Some of them have, you know, some of both. But the looks of these cameras can match very well. They also have a network jack on the back, so you can actually paint these cameras remotely. So you just know the IP of the camera, you log into a web browser, and you actually have access to all the features. So you can go in and actually paint all the cameras to look the same. Even with the 709 profile, it gets you close. You can get it just spot on. So let's take a look at this video here. This was a BMX World Championship event. This was all 900s. Same DNA connected cams line that they have, but we're shooting with ENG lenses here, 2/3 inch sensor. This is the 709 profile that, you know, I kind of cobbled together in the back, and it looks great. This was a broadcast show, so, you know, it went to air 5 days of this. Days 2, 3, and 4, it rained like Noah was around. It was insane. And we shot in the rain. So the cameras held up in the rain, put some covers on them. Didn't have any issues at all. I'm not saying they're water sealed or supposed to be water sealed, but they did very well in the biblical amount of water that fell from the sky over the course of the days of this event. This does not do it justice with this nice day. You can kind of see the dapple light, but cameras performed well. I mean, this show on the finals day was shot with a truck, you know. It was a SMPTE truck, still 1080i. This show is 1080-60, and we got compliments that, you know, our show looked better than the truck show, which is always a good compliment to have, especially seeing how the, you know, truck that they brought in, the budget for that was significantly more than what our budget was for. Next, we have some of the fights that we've done here. This is a Jake Paul open workout. You can see there's 2 handhelds in there as well. This jib right now has one of the 900s. The handheld that's shooting that is a 900. The guy behind it there, that's a Netflix guy. Ignore him. We're not going to compare our camera to what he's shooting on. But again, looks great. Sharp edge to edge. We've got good color. Lighting was mixed in this room as well. The camera held up just fine. This was the next day. Here's a look, another 900 on the set. The guy on the left's a little hot. He got a little close to the light, but camera held on. It didn't completely blow out his forehead. Again, contrast to that video board's pretty tough. Again, another 900 on the jib. That's a 900 as well. Shooting the presenter tight. Then you've got a wireless handheld that's also in the mix. So there's the wireless handheld there. You can see Slucko backing up, trying to stay on the stage and not fall off for his dear life. Some shots of Jake. Say what you want to Jake. Puts on a show. Kiddos love him. Get the contractual Celsius drink in there. So there's the 900. Again, sharp. Looks great. Color looks good. Happy with it. There's the jib, the 900. Now he's going over to face Mike here. Should get our little FX6. So there's the FX6 on that one side and the 900 on the other. We'll get a couple over the shoulders here. Yeah, there it is. So there's your paper thin, autofocus helping you out, and then there's your broadcast guy. There's your FX6, and then there's your 900 out front. You can see those two lenses, shoulder to shoulder there. So you get a good idea of what that looks like. So if you are going to intercut these cameras, you can see, you can actually make them match a little bit better than what we did. Mason's camera's a little more loose in the field, in the wild, so I don't have as much color handles on him, so we kind of have to walk him in, and it is what it is. The last clip I want to show you is one that is all 900s. So what's cool about this was there were 7 of these guys used on this show. So there were 5 ISOs and 2 wides, and they were all, the whole show was shot on the JVC 500s, but there's 7 of these cameras being used. So let me let you see this guy. So this is a watch along show. That's again another boxing match. This is in LA. So we're up in the top corner of an MLS stadium, and the fight's happening back behind him. But this show was on air for, geez, 5 hours or so, and we had to do a day to night transition, you know, with 7 cameras. Again, this was a fly pack usage. There's no truck involved in this, right? So to shade 7 of these cameras, I actually just opened 7 Chrome tabs and was able to get right into their IP address and make all the adjustments I need, you know, with mouse clicks. It cost me nothing for a CCU or a CCU controller. I was able to do everything right from a laptop. Once we made it through the day to night transition, then color was pretty much locked in with the lighting that we had, which was very limited lighting. The gains actually in these shots are high. I want to say the gains are probably +6 here. I'm raising the black levels on these cameras significantly. So these are actually being, you know, painted, especially that shot where the guy was just completely darkness behind him. I raised that up, and you got all this information in the blacks from the camera. That shot right there, like originally was black. You couldn't see any of the people in the hats behind him or any of that. So as it got dark, we had to raise those black levels to give us a little bit of, you know, kind of stuff in the background. There was just no light. The lighting was all in that ring. You can see him boxing back there in the back. They just didn't have any lights out in the crowd. So it kind of did not make for a good background. But again, flexibility of the camera, was able to raise those black levels and save the shot. And just so you know that I'm not full of crap and these are different cameras, here's some actual shots of the shows. So that was me filming golf with a 500. There's actually a 900 and a 500 doing another press event. That was in Nashville. I didn't show you that one, but similar setups. That's the BMX race. That's the 900 about to get mounted up. There's Sluck with the handheld at the Jake Paul weigh-in. He's with the 900. He's also got the NDI converter up there on top. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. There's another 900 on the jib, as well as those 7 cameras at the Pain Game show. And last shot here, that's the ladies round table. So you can see that we were using that camera there. Hopefully that gives you a good idea of what the camera's capable of. Just to touch on some of the things that I've learned with this camera. Out of the box, you got to turn off the 3D noise reduction. To do that, you have to get into a service menu. Let me show you that really quickly. Here is the button combination to get into that service menu. You hold 1, then you press 2, 3, 4. Then you keep holding 1, then you press 5, 4. So it's like hold 1, then you go 2, 3, 4. You can let those go. Keep holding 1, and then press 5, 4. It's a little bit of a ninja move. I'm not gonna lie. It took me forever to do this the first time, but once you kind of get the rhythm of it, it's not too bad. So that's the first thing you need to do. Turn off the 3D noise reduction in the camera. That will clean up your image significantly. Autofocus, not great, you know. One of the things that I notice is it pulsates the background. I'll show you an example of it. The autofocus is off on this right now. Hopefully I'm in focus. We'll find out when I go to edit it. But if I was to have it on, you would most likely see pulsing in the background, where it's not hunting, but it's working the whole time. The cameras come in a bunch of different models. There's an NDI model. It's about $500 more. I do have a lot of workflows that use NDI, and having the ability just to plug in a network cable into this camera and come out NDI is fantastic, but I don't like HX. I don't like NDI HX. I want high bandwidth NDI. These cameras do not do that. So they only do HX. So if you're not concerned about the looks of HX, $500, get the one that has NDI output. It simplifies life significantly. These cameras do not have the NDI option. So what I decided to do was get the base model cameras and buy NDI converters that are high bandwidth NDI converters. The converters are $400, $500, depending on which ones you get, which is the same price of putting the NDI chip and license in these. And I can move them from this camera to this camera, no problem. Plus I have a converter I can use for all kinds of stuff. We actually put Velcro up here, and the little puck sits right here. So we actually can loop through the network out and go into the back and control these guys and get NDI into the system. The cameras do have like these expansion card slots in the back where you can get an H.265 encoder, and you can get a SSD caddy. If you're not doing SRT stuff, I don't see why the H.265 encoders really need it. I do have a couple of those just because I wanted to test the SRT component of the camera, and the H.265 encoder is money for that. You can get low latency, high quality video back extremely easy, and it looks significantly better than the H.264 flavor. The SSD caddy that you get opens up some more recording options. I've been perfectly happy with the 10-bit 1080 and 10-bit 4K that records the SD cards. I do not have that, so I don't have a comparison of what that would look like, but the recordings that I've been getting are great. To sum it all up, I think JVC is not on most people's radar. It wasn't on mine. They've been great to work with. They really care about the end user, and they want you to be happy with your camera. That was very evident when I told them their camera was hot garbage and broken at NAB, and they allowed me to just tinker on it, which is unheard of. Most manufacturers would not have let me just go into a service menu and start trying to figure out exactly what was causing problems. But because of that, it built so much trust in me that like I can call them or explain an issue or kind of work through things with them, and I know they're not going to put me off. They trust and value the opinion of users, so I just want to speak highly of that. And again, I just don't think most guys are looking JVC's direction when they're looking at cameras. You've got Canon, Panasonic, Sony. This is just kind of an oddball that's out there, and I think it punches way above its price point. The Pain Game show with the 7 of these that we used, the show that was going on behind us was an NEP truck. It's a 4K HDR truck. They intercutted highlights of our show and this show, And I mean, it looks good. It looks real close. And I mean, one cost of those 4K HDR chains would have paid for all 7 of these cameras. So until you start getting into big boy world, I don't think there's anything, you know, a combo of this. And I don't want to exclude this guy. I mean, this one has become my baby, especially for sports stuff. If you can afford these guys, are a little bit more. The lensing options that you get, the depth of field that you get with the 2/3 inch sensor, it looks really good. The image is super clean. You don't get 4K though, so only 4K 30 in this one, 1080/60 in this one. But a 1080/60 E&G camera is pretty pricey, and these are priced at a great spot. So check it out, the JVC 500, JVC 900 connected cam series. They're great. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'm not a YouTuber. I will try to answer them as quickly as I can. Please have some grace with me because I work for a living. And I don't have a whole lot of time to devote to that, but I will try to answer all of your comments and questions. And yeah, let me know your experience. I haven't met a whole lot of folks that are using these. I think they're out there. I hear rumors, you know, from people using them. So if you've had similar experiences, or even if the 3D noise reduction thing, if that you know, saved you or helped you, let me know. I think I've covered just about everything. So thank you so much for watching.